This is Jordan Edwards, and this is the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. Welcome back to the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. Rich Byrne.
Hey, Jordan.
Great to have you back on the podcast. You were one of my very first guests. And
Jordan, am I your first repeat guest?
You're not my first repeat guest, but you're definitely one of my most excited repeat guests. And I feel like I have like a breaking exclusive here with the CEO of Kasai after your major win this past weekend in Brazil at AIGA.
Yep.
I hope I said that right.
AIGA. You said it right.
Yeah. So let me just remind the listeners and viewers who you are. Incredible background. First and foremost, you're a Masters World Champion. I think that should be your new most prominent byline on your resume. Multiple time at the black belt level. You're a black belt under John Donahar. You're the CEO of Kasai Grappling organization that went from being its own tournament series to now being a team competing in another tournament series, which we're going to dig into today. But your full-time job is that you're the president of Benefit Street Partners, asset management firm with $76 billion under management. You're a board member of Wynn Hotels and the New York Roadrunners. You have an incredible background in the industry. You were an investor in Bellator. And interestingly, to the people who are going to be listening to this podcast, you were the banker to the Fertitta brothers during their run-up growing the UFC. So you have been in the sport and around the sport, both as an active competitor, still competing and doing incredibly well, and also now running your own team. So it's truly an honor. And then you and I know each other because we get to train with each other out in the Hamptons. And before COVID, I used to train at your class 6 a.m. in the city at Mushin. And it's really, really great having you back on the podcast. And thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Jordan. That was the best intro I've ever gotten. So thank you.
I'm your hype man, baby. Put me in. Yeah. So maybe let's start out this conversation by just saying, what is AIGA and how did this team come together?
So AIGA, we have no affiliation with AIGA other than we entered the tournament. AIGA is run by a Kazakhstan group. This is the third incarnation of AIGA. This is the third one. It takes about a year to resolve, or over a year. There's trials on, I think, 4 different continents. You can qualify for the ultimate tournament of 8 by winning one of the trials, or I guess, I'm not exactly sure. I guess maybe being invited, maybe because you had a strong showing in one of the trials or something. I know they invite the prior winner. So somehow they get to 8 teams, and we duke it out in Kazakhstan. So to get to be one of those 8 teams, we had to win a trials. We chose the Brazilian trials. Really no great theory or logic or strategy behind it other than they were in May. And we wanted to do a trials before ADCC and all that's going on with this great CJI tournament. And
I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yeah, but we and the U.S. trials, the date wasn't even announced yet. I think it's not until October or November. So we just wanted to get locked in sooner. And half of our team is Brazilian, so figured we could do either one. So thankfully, we picked Brazil and got to a great outcome.
So the AIGA is a team format. You put together a team and you compete as a team. There are some other organizations like Quintet, for example, that have this team format. I love that format. I think it's awesome. I think it's exciting. So were you the driving force behind putting this team together? Was it your idea, or did somebody bring this to you?
No, it was my idea, but in all fairness, it was a combination of myself and Mateus Luchas. So Mateus, I don't know if all your viewers know who Mateus is, but
I hope they do.
He's a big personality. He's professional fighter, very
Mhm.
successful on the Kasai stage, especially.
Yeah, is he a black belt under Marcelo Garcia?
He's a black belt in Marcelo Garcia. I think he's the the bronze medalist at 185-pound Kasai tournament. He actually won the qualifier to get into the tournament, and I think Kasai was kind of his big breakout moment.
Yeah.
As an aside. But he also owns an academy in Long Island, very
Yep.
successful, great guy, and he's been itching to do for something like this, and ended up partnering with him, making him the manager of the team, and he's done a spectacular job. So between the two of us, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and we built the team.
I saw him on the sideline, and you had mentioned to me the team roster, and he wasn't on the roster, and I was getting excited that we're going to see him compete. And at the end, when everyone was shaking hands, I kind of put it together. Okay, he must be a coach or a manager or some member of this team. But he's a great competitor, really, really exciting. His academy, Royal Jiu-Jitsu, is actually not far from where I'm sitting. I'm sitting in Long Island on the North Shore, and his academy is in Mineola, which is only about 15 minutes from where I am right now. So shout out Mateus, and great job helping Rich put this team together. We got to get him on this podcast talking about his academy.
Yeah, he's a lot more fun to talk to than me. He's very expressive and very funny.
That's considering that this is a business focused podcast and you're probably the epitome of what business jiu-jitsu is. I think that some of the listeners would disagree.
All right. Well, he'd be very entertaining if nothing else.
Okay. We'll take
but
it. So
that
help me
was
set
our
it
idea.
up.
We had followed. We saw last year's winner in the AIGA tournament was Team Modalfo, which was Mo Jassim, and I'm not sure what the Dalfo was for, but how they got that name. But they built a dream team, and we thought Team Modalfo would re-enter as the returning champion. So, part of what we had in mind was building a team that can beat the defending champions. Who know? And according to conversations I've had with Mo, I don't think anything's official. It doesn't look like they're going to be re-entering this year.
He probably only has so much bandwidth with ADCC.
With ADCC, yeah. But maybe I'll put this out on your podcast in case any promoters out there want to listen, but we'd love a match against Team Modalfo, whether it's in or outside of the AIGA tournament format, to see who really is the best team.
That would be absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful you're dropping that here. I can't wait to spread that news and throw the challenge flag down. I have to say that Mo has been a very influential figure in this podcast, even though it was for just a moment in time. But Mo is, originally connected me with Gordon Ryan, and more than half of my following came off of that one episode that I had with Gordon, and that wouldn't have happened without Mo connecting us. So big shout out to Mo Jassim, and I hope that you put it together with Rich. The challenge flag has been thrown down. Next year, Team Adolfo versus Team Kasai, somewhere in this world. Hopefully New York. I would love to bring it back to New York. I remembered your event at on 34th Street, right? It was
and the
Manhattan Center.
Manhattan Center.
Right
across from Madison Square Garden.
Yep. And that was an incredible event. We'd love to see
it come back. We did 9 of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. And COVID kind of
killed us.
Yeah, killed it.
Yeah, but here's the current new incarnation of Kasai. It's called Team Kasai. This is the dream team, in the sport. And I'll tell you, the most fun, you haven't gotten up to it yet, but the most fun part about it is if you grew up playing basketball, or you grew up playing, a lot of the American sports, baseball, or even soccer or whatever, you're used to being on a team and all the benefits that it gives you and the support you get. And if you grow up doing jiu-jitsu, you may have a team, but every time you compete, you're really just competing yourself. And I will tell you, these guys got such a lift out of being part of a team, and not just a team, like a team that they really really deeply, connect with.
Yeah.
Has been an amazing experience to watch, including for myself. I'm just as little kid as they are as far as getting swept up in it.
Does that light your fire? I mean, you were around the UFC in its infancy. It was a joke, essentially. Videotape, VHSs, pay-per-view, back alley casinos, and then you were around Bellator to start it. Like, are you getting the fire lit under you that there's something here, like there's some magic in this niche?
Yeah, I think so. I hope it'll last.
Yeah.
We all seek, fulfilling things in this world. For me, I pursued a lot of charitable stuff and some other things, but at the end of the day, you got to sort of gravitate to things you enjoy doing and things that make you happy. And it was really funny. I had this moment, Jordan, I'll just share with you. Yeah. Jordan and I share, books and things, and we kind of get into a lot of the same stuff on, personal growth and things. And Howell Teague, the announcer for AIGA, at one point, after one of the victories on our team, I got up and was shouting and high-fiving. And he even noted, the owner of Kasai, Rich Byrne, he's more excited. He said something like that. And I heard him say it because you can hear, I didn't hear the broadcast, but I can hear him saying it, across the mat. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That really is true.
I thought they were going to start throwing you up in the air. I mean, they had you on the shoulders, but it was just one step away. And you're right, because I was noticing, and I have noticed this in other team formats also, like Quintet. I mean, these guys aren't on a team. They're not all training together, but they came together as a team, and then they won. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned this. We may have got ahead of ourselves. You won 14 out of 14 matches against two teams, 7, no? And 13 by submission.
No. 21 matches.
20
matches. By submission.
Wow.
Where there were 3 rounds, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. So best out of 7.
I must have only saw the second and third rounds. I must have missed the first round.
Yeah, the broadcast, the Flow broadcast went dark.
That's what it was. Yeah, I heard, how do you say his name? Howell?
Howell.
The other guy that was broadcasting with him has a podcast. Him and I have chatted before. He did like a little recap of the event, and he said that there was a lot of technical difficulties, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And there was some issue. They were way behind schedule. There were 2 hours behind the start time of our match on the first round. And then it ended up taking us a half an hour to win when it was scheduled to take 2.5 hours. So we've got them back their time.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I ran into you at a wedding right before you left, and one of your black belts and a friend of mine, Randy Neves, and I was looking forward to a long weekend of training with you out in the Hamptons, as has become the tradition over these past years. And you said, nope, not going to be there. Heading down to Brazil to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament to qualify for $1 million. That's going to be the prize. And I was instantly captivated and conspired to get you on this podcast as soon as you got back. So I'm really, really grateful that you are. But I'm really interested in how you and Mateus started reaching out to all of these stars of the BJJ. Let me name some of the people on this squad for the people that didn't follow. You had, and please fill me in if I miss them, Roberto Jimenez, Dorian Oliveras, Fabricio Andre, the Tackett brothers, Hanato Canuto, Pedro Marahino, Edwin Junior Ocasio. I mean, this is like dream team level jiu-jitsu competitors from all walks of jiu-jitsu life. How long did it take you to put this together, and did you get immediate buy-in from all these guys?
Yeah, so it was a labor of love, but it took some time in both dreaming up the roster and then getting the guys to say yes. They're two different things you have to put together. Yeah. It was good because we started thinking maybe we should just have a team of Kasai champions. But, it's hard to reassemble all those people. So we started with some core Kasai alumni, including Hanato Canuto, who you mentioned, 2-belt champion at Kasai, one of the most exciting fighters in the world.
Yeah.
There's something about the Kasai stage and the Kasai name, which he reminded me of when he won both of his matches by highlight reel submissions at this tournament, that when he fights for Kasai, he's like a different person. So, him, Kainan Duarte, who's our heavyweight champion. So those are two of our champions that are on the team. But I mentioned it before, but Junio Ocasio and Pedro Mourinho, as well as Mateus Luches, won the trials to qualify for. So Kasai, if you ask any of them, was sort of their breakout moment in the world, and they went on to fight in the tournament. In some of the cases, multiple tournaments. Juni won the bronze medal at the big Kasai 135-pound tournament. Pedro did amazingly well, and now Pedro is a legitimate superstar.
Yeah.
And lastly, the Tackett brothers have been on the Kasai stage multiple times, both Andrew and William, who are two of the most exciting fighters like you can even imagine out there right now. So that was a pretty good base for a team. And then we had to think about the weight classes, because you can have 10 Gordon Ryans on your team, but you'd have a terrible team because nobody would be fighting in the other 6 weight class, in the other weight classes. So you have to find people, the right people for the right weight classes. And we backfilled with other people that, were both A, superstars, but B, people that we knew and we thought would really jibe well with the personalities on the team. So it was a combination of things. And then again, we had to go convince everybody.
Yeah.
And half of them never even heard of an AIGA. So I had to say, trust me, this will be good. The $1 million definitely got their attention. But other than that, Kazakhstan, they look at you like you have 3 eyes. Like, really? You want me to go to Kazakhstan?
I did confirm that it was the homeland of Borat after I saw you. I had mentioned that it was, the whole, and so, all respect to Kazakhstan, beautiful country, big country, and very, very happy what you're doing to the sport of jiu-jitsu. So in all sincerity, thank you for putting on AIGA and putting up $1 million for the athletes. I think that's great.
Yeah. So, so we took that, and thankfully virtually everybody said yes almost instantly. They needed maybe a little explanation of what it was first, but and to add to the roster, we got Roberto Jimenez, who I think you mentioned. Roberto, to me, is one of the superstars of the sport. Probably one of the most exciting guys you can watch. He weighs, 200 pounds, and he fights and he wins the absolute. 50, 60, 70 pounds lighter than the guys that he fights, which I
incredibly exciting.
Amazing. Fabrizio Andre, who I think legitimately owns a spot as one of a rarefied air of, actual superstars. People always ask, like, who's going to be the new biggest, breakout stars? I mean, they already are,
we didn't even mention the Tackett brothers, who have just had an incredible rise, young men, and very exciting to watch. I think they're making a big splash right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, William had a staph infection and couldn't compete. But Andrew did. He won all 3 of his matches by submission, like not even close. In fact, he was doing so well in his matches that he even had time in between takedowns to fix his hair.
I saw he had some big takedowns, a double leg. He had a
slam.
Beautiful. There was beautiful jiu-jitsu all around, an incredible display of submissions. It was incredible. Juni was wizard. Hanato Canuto, wizard. I mean, there was just Pedro Marino, incredible technique. I mean, it would be like as close to a dream situation from your perspective as you could possibly have, taking a team and just putting on a clinic.
That's right. So, and just to make sure everybody knows the score, because I don't want, we had 3 matches, best of 7. So you just had to win 4, right? But so you had to win 12 matches, obviously, to get. We won every match. So 7, 7, and 7. So 21-0, 20 submissions. And we gave crap to Roberto Jimenez, who had the only match without a submission, but he beat his opponent by a collective 20-0. No, I'm sorry, 30-0.
Wow.
I think he won all 3 rounds 10-0.
Wow.
The guy just was not, he was just in armored tank mode, So, just complete domination.
Had any of the guys on your team competed against each other in the past?
Yeah.
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 And was there any, was that even part of the recruiting process? Did that ever come up? Like, I don't want to go with that guy, or, who's on the team? Those kind of questions.
Of course it did. A lot of the matches that they had against each others were like at purple belts, so they all know each other. A lot of them know each other well. The other guy I didn't mention on the team, I think we covered everybody, is Sebastian Rodriguez. Sebastian trains at Unity, world champion, pan champion. I think he's European champion too. Gi, no gi. Just really great, super exciting. You had to pick. I mean, we can only get 10.
Yeah.
So, was really happy with who we ended up with.
Yeah, it's truly a dream team. I mean, we could sit here for hours talking about the accolades of everybody on the team. How did Kynan do? Did you?
Oh, Kynan didn't make it. Kynan was hurt. Yeah,
he was hurt.
We did the tournament without. We didn't have William, who had a staph infection, and we didn't have. He was there.
Yeah,
and Kynan wasn't there, but he was out. So the 8 guys filled in. The seven weight classes. So we had one alternate. And we did it without Kynan and William.
Wow!
Imagine when we get them back.
Yeah, incredible. So, give me just a little bit of idea of the recruiting process. I mean, for all the listeners, you make your way around the world, and whether that's for business or for jiu-jitsu, but wherever you go, you're always going and dropping into a gym of another incredible world champion or amazing, all the biggest names in jiu-jitsu. You're training with them on a regular basis. So where did this start? Who was the Kasai, the flag, this guy's doing it, you should get on board too guy?
Well, first it was a list of who we wanted, and then can we execute? And so we went ahead. I think there was about 5 initial folks. I don't want to make anybody feel like they weren't our first choice. So I don't even remember, honestly, who was on which list or whatever. But we really had to give thought to the weight classes. And in some cases, we weren't 100% sure which weights people could make.
Right.
It depends on the time of the year. Like, this is before ADCCs. People don't want to be doing big weight cuts before they have to train for, somebody was telling, I thought they wanted to fight 88 in ADCC. They're fighting 99, so a little of it was guesswork, because we don't need 3 people in one weight class and nobody in another. So part of it was that. So there's some other folks maybe we'd consider for the team, but we were just already loaded up in those weight classes. So I think it was just making the list first and then going around to each guy. Jordan, I would say it this way. I hope this sounds, I don't want to make this sound, I want to make it sound modest enough, at least. What goes around comes around. And I always have my rules of business. We talked about some of them on, the other podcast. One of them is, be careful who you step on the way up, because, those are the people you're going to encounter on the way down sometimes, and or when you need something. And I've always thought, it's certainly in jiu-jitsu, you treat people well. You pay them what they should be paid. You don't try to nickel and dime. You treat them, if they're coming to one of your tournaments, you treat them like a kid, you treat them well. And that's the way we viewed it. So I think when you come asking, from Kasai, I'd like to think that had a built-in, oh, these are good guys,
Absolutely.
they, and so I'm pleased to say nobody said no. It was just more of a question of filling out the weight classes and making sure we weren't oversubscribed.
Yeah. Well, you certainly carry that reputation, and you're an absolute man of your word. And, our industry, there's a lot of tournament series. There's a lot of regional players who have big dreams of creating big tournament series, and they have to abide by their own promoting skills or raising money for a single event. And I'm not going to, maybe we'll talk about it after the ADCC drama that's going on right now. But in order to pay these athletes, there has to be some kind of economic model. And you have by doing the right thing. Isn't it so crazy to even say that just by being a good guy and living by your word and paying your bills, that you have such a leg up in this world, and how rare it is? I mean, it really is amazing.
Well, the old saying, nice guys finish last. So you don't want to maybe take that too much to an extreme. You don't want people to step all over you either. But, in jiu-jitsu, it's not like this is people do jiu-jitsu because they want to be billionaires. They do jiu-jitsu because they love it and hopefully can get by or get a fair wage. That's why we started Kasai in the first place, because, it was a shame for me seeing some of these best athletes in the world, kind of living hand to mouth in some cases, or going to MMA, because, people that would never be as good in MMA as they are in jiu-jitsu, but they're doing MMA because there's more money in it. That's a shame. So that's why we developed Kasai. We have the tournament format. So, you can win a nice big prize money and we had super fights where we pay folks and we give them the honor of a big stage. Even today at Who's Number One, I mean, Flo's doing a good job with the Who's Number One, and certainly ADCC is, creates that big stage format for people.
I don't want to put, this isn't a knock on Who's Number One, because I love Who's Number One and I love watching it. But in some ways you kind of laid the groundwork for Who's Number One. You screamed on Flo, and then they just kind of picked up where you left off.
They took good notes. Yeah.
You created this incredible tournament series. You got all this great talent. You had high production value, arguably better than Who's Number One. And then COVID, and then, you didn't come back immediately, and then they just started their tournament series. It's almost like it was...
Well, they filled a void, and I was really
they filled a void, sure.
And they kept with the sort of COVID format, which is like really kind of limited crowd. Whereas the Kasai events had something entirely different, Dallas, especially in New York. We had just overflowing arena of crazy screaming fans.
Yes.
And an atmosphere that, I'm not even sure the TV, the cameras were able to capture the drama that we were trying to create, as a live event. And I think Flo viewed it as, look, that's hard to create, and I just need to get something on.
Yeah, they're content.
I need to get something broadcast. Let's not spend all the time trying to fill the seats and do all that. Let's just work on the card, which they do. But I think that's the biggest difference between Kasai and the other shows is that we built it to be a live, crazy, super exciting show. And, we just spent countless hours, slaving over every production detail to make it. I wanted to make it like the UFC for grappling.
Yeah. What was it like in those early days when you were going to the UFC and banking them and watching it rise up? I mean, it's in such a different place. It's incredible how far they've come.
Yeah. What a success story. I mean, they literally bought something for, I forgot the number, but, single digit millions of dollars.
3 or 6 is sticking out of my head.
Pumped in, 20 something, thought it was like a black hole pissing away money. Probably were in it for 30 something million and like, oh my God, this is the worst vanity project ever. And then it caught fire.
Yeah.
And they changed the rules. They got the Nevada boxing commission to approve it. They started getting it approved in different states, and slowly but surely. And the reason it was appealing, I think, is because it's so primal. It's fighting, and you don't need to know the rules. I mean, you could show up from Mars and just sit down at a UFC event and you pretty much can understand. I mean, if it's a close score and somebody wins around 10-9, I mean, maybe, maybe not. But
let me stop you there for a second. This is a great conversation to have. I wrote an email to Mo Jassim last summer at one point. Too busy to write me back, but my insight to him on ADCC for mass appeal, which I know he's going for, is to explain the rules of jiu-jitsu and get better commentating to kind of Joe Roganify it. And there was an Instagram clip. I don't know if you saw it from Memorial Day weekend, and it was Tom DeBlas fighting like a 250-pound 23-year-old. Did you catch this?
Yeah.
And there's a woman. So Tom DeBlas basically pulls guard, and this guy's on top, and then Tom DeBlas throws up a triangle, and then you hear this woman go, "Who's winning?" And I said, that is the problem with jiu-jitsu right there. Like, if ADCC or who's number one, whoever figures out how to explain what's happening to the non-practitioner, you're going to unlock the code. Until they do that, they need the Joe Rogan type.
Well, yeah, it's funny you bring that all up, because that's what we thought about a lot in Kasai. So we built a dumb it down videos in between each round, explaining the rules. It was an explaining the rules video. We had women doing it on one video. We showed live matches of people like, this is a takedown. This is worth this many points. This is, we tried to just dumb it down. And in Kasai rules, you can have ties. So it takes out a lot of all that crazy tiebreaker stuff. Yeah. We tried. I think we made it as simple as possible. Until my daughters and her friends went to every Kasai. They sat in the front row, so why not? Yeah. Their dad gave them good seats. And I came up to him at the intermission, and I said, "You like it? We love it. Do you know what's going on?" "Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, what do you know?" He goes, "We think Philippe Pena is really cute."
Listen, there's something to be said for the look of your stars.
I said, okay, that's how you're scoring. I get it.
There's definitely something to be said for having marketable stars for sure. Yeah, but So where do you think the future of all this is going? I mean, you're putting yourself kind of at the forefront right now. You're making a big, reemergence with this team. What's your hope for the future?
Well, for us at Kasai, I think this team format is sort of a stop in between. Wanted to build a dream team, and I'm hoping we can maybe, like we said, maybe with Mo's team or, whoever wants to challenge us, we can have lots of opportunities, both in the AIGA tournament and elsewhere. Our guys are dying to compete together. We just love it. It's been a labor of love for everybody on the team. Jordan, just as an aside, we made one of the Instagram videos is sort of like a highlight reel of the finishes in one of the rounds. Yeah. And it's got some rap music in the back that I'm sure nobody ever noticed. Everybody always sets these things to nice music, the way they do these posts. Yeah. The rap music in the back is the team on the bus rapping that we filmed and made it as the soundtrack to this. And we're working on now a video. We're going to make a nice little documentary of our trip, and we'll have it. But we passed a microphone with a little beatbox going. And like 7 or 8 of the guys on the team are like awesome rappers. And like on the spot came up with lyrics about the tournament, about breaking your leg, and Yeah. And we actually have a video set to I think that's the first, having a highlight video that you are the soundtrack for as well.
Look at you promoting away. I love it.
So I think for Kasai, I'm excited about the team and hopefully getting out there with lots of opportunities to compete against other teams. I think one thing, like you said, quintet format had it, and it is elsewhere sporadically, but I think this would be a nice thing. And, we all love it and think we have a really special bond on our team. As far as Kasai,
let's talk about a couple of team things before you move on from that, because Your partner in Mushin, your academy in New York City, is Eric Onings, and he fought on Henzo's team in an MMA league that was a team format. Do you recall the name of that league?
Yeah. I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to think of it after the broadcast. Sorry. Yeah, that was a whole bunch of different teams. They were the Pit Bulls.
Yeah.
And the Henzo's Pit Bulls.
Yeah. So people have been trying to crack this team fighting format. And in the beginning of the UFC, around that time of the show, they kind of gave a lot of they used to talk about the teams a lot, Greg Jackson's team and, the Pit Crew with Chuck Liddell and the Gracie team, they kind of focused on a little bit of the background of the team. They still kind of dig into that a little bit more, but it seems to me they've refocused back on star power and athletes and individual athletes. I'm not saying that hasn't been great for them, but I've just really been enjoying the team. I always love the team format. It would be great if someone could crack that nut and just think maybe you're onto something here.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's just fun, and the guys love it. Pedro Mourinho had the best line. I don't know for those of you guys know Pedro. He's a multiple-time world champion. He's just a legitimate star, monster. But he's the nicest, most mild-mannered person you'd ever meet. And he just told me, first of all, he's so thankful, Kasai came around, kind of got him to this country and sort of was his first shot in the public realm. And he said he looked at the video of one or more of his fights from the AIGA, and he said, I didn't recognize that guy. He said, it's almost like I turned green and, I ripped off my shirt and, that guy was ferocious. That's not me.
Yeah.
That's fighting me. I never saw that me before. Kasai kind of brought out the best. And so I thought that was really cool.
That's very cool. Yeah. Well, I'm very excited to see where you take this and can't wait to support you in any way that I can. Let's just talk about the rest of the current state of the jiu-jitsu world. There's this big beef going on right now between ADCC and this new Craig Jones Invitational. Where do you see this for the sport? You think more competition's a good thing, or do you wish they didn't have to go head to head on the same weekend?
Well, I think more competition is a good thing. It always is. Hopefully respectful competition. This got a little bit spicy, but I was kind of surprised it came to this because, if the end result is fighters end up getting paid more, even as a promoter that would have to be paying more, I'm still all for it. I mean, it's not like jiu-jitsu guys are retiring on yachts and mansions. There's still, some amazing athletes, and, I'd love to see sort of pay escalation to get there. Craig's tournament certainly does that with the $10,000 show, appearance fee, as well as the $1 million prize. So if that ends up escalating, where we go from here, it's not a bad thing. I'm sort of surprised that ADCC didn't match, or at least try to, to keep some of the talent. I guess we'll see, how many people migrate to which tournament. Kasai is Switzerland. We just FYI, we are a sponsor of both events. And I plan to be there and watch, with great interest. Eight of the 10 people on Kasai were invited to ADC or won trials to get to ADCC. Some of them are already going to CJI, and we'll let them decide where they're going. But we certainly have a vested interest in both. We're also going to be a charitable partner for Craig Jones's tournament. They're planning to give a lot of the money they raise, maybe all of the money they raise, to charity. I've spoken to Craig about Tap Cancer Out, which is a charity that is very important to me, and a cause that's very important to me, about being a charity partner. And I'm going to do my best.
John Thomas has been on the podcast, and we've supported him through the podcast too.
Yeah.
Raised money for him on Global Grappling Day, as I know you were the largest fundraiser for that charity.
And I'm going to do my best for John to play a prominent role, in the jiu-jitsu world. Hopefully the Craig's tournament will be a nice entry point for him. So Kasai is going to be involved in both. There's plenty to go around. It's too bad they're like on consecutive. It's going to be a great weekend, but it's too bad they're right back to back like that.
Let's talk about it from a business perspective for just a minute. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. This happens in business all the time. You have a legacy business that's been around for 25, 26 years. They have a sterling reputation. Then all of a sudden, you get some venture-backed company that gets $100 million or even $1 billion thrown behind it. It's like throwing kerosene on the flame. And sometimes the incumbents win and take over and redefine the industry. And other times, actually probably high 90%, they go up in flames after spending all that money, and it doesn't end up doing to the industry what you thought of. And then very times they end up getting sold and absorbed into other companies and rolled in. I'm thinking of all these private equity deals. I'm thinking of Casper Mattress to the 1-800 mattress, mattress firm kind of stories. So I hope this is good for the sport and it's not just kerosene on a flame, because my personal feelings were that ADCC is building something from scratch, and the opens, the ADCC opens and trials was becoming so exciting, like incredibly exciting. So I hope it's good for the sport, but I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Well, Jordan, as I said, we're Switzerland, so I'm going to try to be politically correct. But I think the business analysis or analogy or metaphor you're using is the correct one. There's lots of examples of incumbent market leaders. And what's your goal as an incumbent market leader is to stay on top.
Right.
Sometimes staying on top, is harder than catching somebody from behind. But ADCC, whoever would have thought that ADC would ever see anybody nipping at their heels? When we started Kasai, we always said, well, ADCC's out of reach. Let's just try to be we'll try to go for a different niche because of the rich history. Several decades of most storied matches and, from the origins of the sport. Just an amazing tournament and history. But then somebody came along and I think exploited their vulnerability, which was that the athletes just, probably hadn't marked to market the costs, with inflation or, whatever in a while.
Yeah. And
that probably needed to be rethought. And then it becomes one of these, business, case studies of what do you do when that, as you say, when that new well-capitalized competitor shows up and starts nipping at your heels. Do you fall back on your rich history and hold the line and, just kind of stare it down? It is a strategy. Or do you open up the wallet and say, look, sorry, maybe I should have done this sooner, but, it took a little bit of an event to get me here, but, here's a little bit of a modified pay scale to keep people. And it sounds like they chose the former, and we'll see what that ends up meaning as far as defections. Obviously, it sounds like there's a fair number of defections already. So personally, I'm surprised that they didn't just go into I assume there's a vault somewhere with some money, but I don't know. But if they had the money,
a couple trillion Abu Dhabi dollars sitting around.
If they have the money, I'd urge them to rethink that decision, because I certainly don't want to see the luster diminish off of one of the greatest organizations of all time.
Yeah, I think that's well stated, and let's just hope that it does. I just was really looking forward to seeing some of these storylines play out at ADCC. Is incredibly excited. I guess I'll drop some news on here that the Business Jiu-Jitsu book is finally coming out. I'm going to be dropping it. July 9th is going to be its publication date, and all of the marketing and announcement is going to be taking place in the lead up to ADCC. So there's going to be a lot more news on that coming out, but you were a very big part of it. You're prominently featured in the book, and I'm just really looking forward to ADCC. You know, the excitement that's been built around it, and I'm a little upset that Nicky Rod and Nicky Ryan and the Tackett brothers aren't going to be there. Roberto Jimenez dropping out, Fiona Davis. I mean, these were really big, exciting names. So only one of them can win the $1 million, and the rest of them are going to be.
Well, if you take our perspective of being Switzerland, then you just get an extra day of tournaments to watch. You should start watching on Friday when they do the first day of CJI, and you'll get to see all those people.
That's very true.
And then you can watch Saturday, both events, and then on Sunday you can watch the finals of ADCC. So you're getting the best of. I mean, for a fan, this is unbelievable.
I'm a little bit conspiratorial also. So I'll just say that in the back of my mind, I'm just hoping that this is like hype and it's all, part of the KFAB, which is like the wrestling language, and Mo and Craig are in on it together, and they're just going to come together. ADCC is going to buy it, and it was Sheikh Daoun behind the money the whole time, and they're going to put the events together.
That's a great conspiracy, but that one may be a little bit out of the money at the moment. But I will tell you,
I was also very wrong about I had the same theory about B Team and New Wave. So don't gamble off of my betting.
Well, you just believe in the best for everything, the happy endings. But I will tell you, kudos to Craig Jones.
Yep.
I mean, I told Craig that who would have guessed that you'd be better known for your promoting skills than for your jiu-jitsu skills.
Yeah. I have to say,
he's really good at promoting, especially that video he made with his butt showing in the mirror. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I big fan of Craig Jones's jiu-jitsu. Not the biggest fan of his antics. That's just not my style. I love the sport. I don't love the
but he somehow managed to
WWE-fication.
marry his antics with promoting this tournament.
Yeah.
Which has kept it kind of very colorful.
I watched the Craig Jones interview on Joe Rogan, and I thought Joe Rogan really pressed him hard. I think, it seemed like Joe and I are kind of like in the same wavelength of how he feels about it. But I respect it. I love competition. I never shy away from competition. In my business, I compete with people on my left and my right. It's fiercely competitive. So I'm never going to shy away from competition. And I think competition definitely rises the level, I guess, just from seeing some of the matches I was hoping to see. That's why. But
well, I will tell you something. I am certain that there will be enough A-level competition, no matter who defects at ADCC, that you will not be disappointed. I mean, maybe some names that you wanted to see specifically may or may not be there, but ADCC's brackets go a lot deeper than the people that make the cut. So if this gave the opportunity to a handful of folks to fill in for the seats that some people left behind, I think it'll be an opportunity to see some breakout stars that didn't quite make it to the team.
You're a jiu-jitsu junkie, even more than me, I would say, maybe even far more than me. You have an incredible knowledge. You watch a lot of jiu-jitsu. You take copious notes. How incredible are these trials? I mean, are you blown away by the level of talent of people that aren't even getting into ADCC? It's wild how good these kids are.
I know. You can go to the trials. You can have, 11 matches and just lose the last one, and you get 0 for it, which is amazing. Right? Think about that. It's winner take all, literally. But now's the moment where some of those second place guys, may get invited to fill spots. So that's my point, is that I think we're going to get to see people, the difference between that second place guy and the other, I don't remember how many people are in the bracket, but the other, 15 people in the bracket is tiny. So you're gonna, this could be the little opportunity for some, new names to kind of break out, which
Yeah.
think about it. Like, for example, on the Kasai team, we recruited for 65 kilos, Dorian Oliveras. He was 17 at the time. He's 18 now, an 18-year-old kid, Brazilian wrestling, high school wrestling champ. Just absolutely tore up the competition at the trials.
I just want to show this right here that I had his name highlighted and underlined on my show notes over here to talk about him, to make sure I didn't forget. So I was going to forget, and I'm really happy you brought up Dorian, because he really was a showstopper at AIGA.
And I think, and his game is ever evolving. I mean, he's young, he's super young. I think he just took a level higher. I don't want to overstate it, but at the Kasai tournament, we were all sharing, advice and tips, and he's getting coached by 7 guys on the team. It was a little overwhelming because each of the 7 guys were shouting out a different instruction. But after the match, we sat down and said, "Hey, listen, when he had you here, maybe you should have done this." But like people like that, maybe they weren't fortunate enough to have won the trials. You're going to get to see some of these guys. So yep. I actually think at the end of the day, this is in many ways a good thing for ADCC.
I like your perspective on it, and that's why it's good to have these conversations, because you brought in your own perspectives on things.
And it's a good thing for fighters because they're going to get paid more money.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. More money, more dollars. And it's amazing to see how many of these guys and young guys are living off the sport with seminars and growing their social media influence and reputation. And you don't even need to open a school necessarily any longer to make money. You can build it in the way that Craig had, traveling around the world, throwing seminars and selling instructionals and merch and gear. And it's in its infancy for sure. But the fact that you can make money and a life off of just jiu-jitsu, and not just in New York City, like Henzo did 20 years ago, but in every single corner of this globe. I could go anywhere. I went to Mykonos last summer in Greece on a little island, and I was training jiu-jitsu at Mykonos Jiu-Jitsu. Everywhere I go, Paris, Berlin, Puerto Rico, Florida, LA, it doesn't matter where you go, you can go train jiu-jitsu. It's incredible, and people are making a living off of it. So in that way, it's you're right. It's good. It's good for the sport.
I even trained on my winter vacation in St. Lucia.
Yeah, there you go.
In the Caribbean.
Yeah, and I was in December. I was in St. Bart's at a jiu-jitsu camp, with BJJ Globetrotter. Shout out Christian.
Wow,
so
I'm gonna have
to. Everywhere you go.
I may have to get some notes on that.
You should come next year. It's very cool. Well, listen, Rich, really, really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing all these details. I appreciate your friendship and mentorship. You are a wealth of jiu-jitsu knowledge and life and business knowledge, and it's an honor having you on the podcast.
My pleasure, Jordan. Thanks for having me, and I'm glad we have some new content for you with the Team Kasai AIGA story.
I love it.
I don't know if you're up for it, but the next round is in Kazakhstan in February. So it's a long time from now. But hopefully we'll have some good stories to tell.
I love to do it again, and we'll keep the audience updated as you have more things to share. And wishing you all the best and getting this team going. Can't wait to support you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, Jordan.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.